Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki C, all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Super excited to be here with another amazing guest. And she is not just an amazing guest, she is a warrior woman. And I am here to celebrate her and her journey. We just met, but I know that we're going to have a lifetime of friendship, sisterhood, collaborations, and many more things. But before we get to our guest today, let me just send huge shout outs to our sponsors for making this all happen. We have the fabulous Carolyn Bob Green with Training You to Succeed. She is our lead sponsor. We also have Taking Off the Shades sponsor, Top Fox, who is the lead sponsor of our new anthology that is just on for pre-sale right now, today, April 1st. Super excited for all of that. So if you want to check out our sponsors, we also have Julia Noah with Breathe Capital Planning with all your financial budgeting, and also our Ladies of Leadership. Super excited again to be here and bring another amazing powerhouse. And I love that she is not from this home state, but she's now residing in Chicago, and can't wait to meet her soon. Her name is Nikki Green. Yes, another Nikki. She is a life and business resiliency expert who has been in the international business industry for over 20 years and is a 7-time published author. Nikki is a vivid traveler, visiting 16 plus countries and completing 7 marathons and dozens of triathlons across 3 continents. Nikki has dedicated her life to assisting others reduce their fear and go after their dreams. Nikki's greatest passion is empowering people to reach their full potential. And without further ado, let's get her right on here. Hello, Nikki. How are you?
Doing wonderful. It's a tale of 2 Nickies today we get.
They get bonus, right? Nikki Square here. I'm super excited to have you now join our BALM GLOBAL family at our podcast. We are on the verge of 200 episodes, and you are right dead at the last 50 episodes, which we'll be celebrating you in a couple weeks as well. So I am so glad you are on here. Let's just talk about a little bit about your journey, and then we'll go into how we connected and how you joined the Warrior Women mission. So tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what mindset you had to build to create what you built today.
Oh, absolutely. Well, mine is a tale of a lot of change and adaptation. I moved pretty much every 2 years, even until my adulthood. I had 6 parents, and they lived across 3 states. So I was originally born in Reno, Nevada. When my parents split, my mom moved to California, and then my biological father came back into my life later, and he was living in Colorado. So even if you think about that, and many people can resonate with that, with maybe not being across that many states or that many parents, but having a varied family that grew up with them to help them see the world in different ways. And so I really love that as my foundation, even though some people may say, oh, wasn't that so difficult? Wasn't that so challenging? But for me, I actually see it as an advantage, is I got to see the world in many different ways because of all of my parents' different perspectives and just living in different places all the time.
I love that. Oh my goodness, 6 parents. I thought I had a crazy story when I said I have 4 parents. You know, I have my mom, who's my biggest cheerleader, but I also have 3 dads that I grew up with and that, you know, I was able to learn from. So, oh my goodness, you see, this is what happens when you just get together, you have great conversation, and you find out that we're really a lot alike, you know, that you have similarities with people out there that we're not tapping into. So I love to travel the world. If you put me on a plane every single week, I am there. So I love that. Tell me, what is, out of all the 16 countries, what was your favorite country and why?
I would say that Singapore is my favorite country. It was never someplace I ever thought of going to. When I was in, high school and college, I studied European languages. So of course I was always like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like move to Europe and do all these things. And Singapore was really like my gateway to Asia. And it was just such a cool place with all these beautiful skyscrapers and high rises. But more than that, it was the blending of three cultures, as well as all the expats that live there. And people were just warm and welcoming. And I know, like, if I showed up in Singapore today, all of my friends that I worked with over the 20 years of my career would open their arms to me, and we'd go hang out at a hawker center and grab some food.
I love that. Tell me about your relationship building experience, traveling so much in your lifetime. How did you have, like, what are the things you had to do to reset yourself in every single new location?
I think it was kind of good and bad being the new kid all the time. Is I could almost reinvent myself. That there was kind of like this no long-term history. But it also made me really crave long-term relationships. So I had pen pals all the time, even when I moved, even when I traveled, even now today, you can use technology, and social media to keep a hold of everybody. But it was like, okay, well, maybe I didn't like something that happened as an outcome. Maybe I didn't do that well in math that year. Who knows? Right. And as you grow, you're like, okay, well, but I'm going to change that this next time. I have a new opportunity at the next school, the next job, the next town I live in, to continue pushing myself to be it. There's like nothing holding me back, that like people know this long history and is like, oh, she's never going to be good at math again or something. And so it really changed my mind about how I could also help others, that they could overcome those things that they thought maybe this is the end, right? No one's ever going to let me do this again. And I can't reinvent myself, but you can, you always can. So I love that part about my history, but also how I help my clients.
That is so cool. Just another fun fact that we can relate to is that though I wasn't traveling from state to state, I was going into a new school about every 2 to 3 years. So I had to reintroduce who I was, what I wanted to have as far as my circles, and who I am, and finding my identity. So I can so relate to that. What type of tips do you have for those that are probably in that move right now? I know I've spoken to just a few of the people I'm connected to, and they're about to do like this big major move. So perfect time to give them some tips on, when having to reintroduce your business at a new location. What are some tips that they can take away?
Yeah, for me, and people look at me like, oh, she's super, like, I think, oh, it's always easy for me to just go and put myself out there, but it actually isn't. I have my own aspects of kind of being a little bit introverted. And a lot of my career in Silicon Valley, I worked with introverts where they were trying to reinvent themselves from different parts of the organization, maybe to becoming managers. And so we talked about ways of like, how do you find that buddy system, that journey, so that you don't feel alone, no matter if you're an introvert, extrovert, or somewhere in between, but you find someone to be like, hey, I think I want to do this. Does this sound good? And then they'll help you kind of bounce those ideas off, so you don't second guess yourself as you're putting yourself into this new world of whatever exciting thing you're going to do next.
That is so cool. So let's talk about these marathons, which I definitely want to connect you with Ivy Perez, because she has done some triathlons as well. So I haven't forgot about that connection. I think that would be super, super cool. But just tell us, like, what inspired you to start that journey, and what have you learned about yourself through it?
It's funny because in high school, I've played sports all my life, but in high school, I was doing volleyball and I did track. Although, don't laugh, I was doing pole vaulting. I wasn't actually running or doing any of the distance. I was like, I don't like running. My friends wanted me to play soccer. I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So it's kind of hilarious that now later on in life, I started running. Um,
Never say never, right?
exactly. You never know. I mean, I ran a bit, but nothing like too extensive. And so when I got my job in Silicon Valley, it was very stressful. We're working a lot. We're in the office a lot. But luckily, being in California, there's all these beautiful trails and things around to be able to get outside. And I used to go hiking, but not really running. And then I met a lady there who just got up every day and she ran. And so I started just running with her for fun. And gradually you get the bug because you get surrounded with the community and you realize how much opportunity is there. And it gave me an outlet for work, all of that stress, all of those difficult problems I was trying to solve, as well as a community of support of people that maybe weren't even in my department that I could just talk to freely without any kind of judgment. So it started out as a really great support system. And then gradually I caught the bug. And my first business I opened was actually training endurance athletes to do marathons and triathlons. So it became something from a hobby to really a business that I did full time. So.
So cool. So cool. And do you know which one was out of the seven? Which one was the best one for you? And what was the deciding factor of, getting it done and like the most fulfilling?
Yeah, I always say every time I finish a marathon, I go, I'm never doing that again.
Of course.
And I'm already signed up for Chicago Marathon this year, so this will be my 8th. So clearly, I don't seem to listen to my own advice. But it really is about a testament of how do you do things long term, not just have a short-term goal that you can do all year and that you have to be consistent at every single week, and that you're not always going to feel good when you're there, that you're not always going to like have the best run, but have the best run at the end when you're really trying to do the actual event. And so for me, that first one taught me so many lessons about how to do that. And that's why it kind of kept me coming back to it at times in life where I think I needed that extra push to be consistent, not just in the marathon training, but probably something else like right now, my business. How to be consistent with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So you are a 7-time published author. Were they all your books? Were they half and half with anthologies? And how did you get introduced to Warrior Women?
Yes, so excited. Warrior Women 3 just came out. So got my copy here, always at ready to sign and ship out. But it's been a mix. So I started writing my own books, a mix of sort of memoir, but really business lessons and career lessons of how do you take those lessons and find the silver lining, do that next best thing for yourself. So I have 3 books that are mine, and then I have several different anthologies. Some are fiction anthologies like Warrior Women, where I collaborate with other amazing women who have these great stories to share. And then I'm very fortunate that here in Chicago, I belong to a writing group where most people write fiction books. And every year they do a fiction anthology with a central theme. And so I've been kind of dipping my toe onto the fiction side of the house. But it helps me learn to tell better stories. How do I actually get the message across through the character development? And that has translated to helping me do better when I speak on stage and even when I write my nonfiction books. So.
Yeah. So kind of what I'm hearing throughout some of this conversation is that you're definitely a team player. You look like you're very competitive. You definitely not just want yourself to win, but those that you're connected to win. Tell us the name of your business and what was the mindset to really start your current business and what you thrive on today.
Green Chameleon Collective is really some pieces of the things I was missing in my corporate career. As I left, like many of us, you start to reevaluate what are the important things that are there. So Green, people think the obvious, Nikki Green is my name, but there's a deeper meaning behind it. I use the chameleon as a way to showcase what people not always think of when they think of chameleons. Usually they think of someone who's hiding or just blending in because they feel like they have to mask who they really are. But there's actually a scientific study that says the truth about chameleons is exactly the opposite. When they are calm, when they are zen, when they are in their best state, they are green. They're chilling in the trees, enjoying a breeze and maybe a leaf. And then when they're looking for something, they're missing something, it's too hot, they're too hungry, they don't want to be around a predator, that's when they're flashing their colors to say something is not right and I need help. And so it's teaching my clients how to do that more immediately, how to find that space to be their green, natural Zen self. But when they need help, how do we more quickly ask for it and support each other rather than waiting and suffering behind the scenes? And that's where the collective comes in place, where we bring everyone together for that support.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool. Like just to really decipher what the differences are and finding a better understanding that a chameleon is not just something that attaches to its environment, right? And their color and they're shining that, but knowing that when the colors do flash, it's like an alert. It's like, hey, we need to solve a problem here. We're not chilled. We're definitely either overwhelmed, we have anxiety, fear comes in, and now there's room to get the tools needed. Tell us a little bit more about that, and what experience have you had are the most common um, triggers, right? The most common alerts that people are going through today in business.
So the name of my business became the ultimate methodology that I use, which is called Chameleon Mindset. So it's a blending of different mindsets together that include things like creative adaptability, risk tolerance, growth and abundance mindset, as well as emotional intelligence and evolving our law of attraction. And so as we go through that CREATE acronym, we go through these stages of understanding our own personal risk tolerance for the things that we're trying to get into, knowing how we can push ourselves into that uncomfortable zone and make it comfortable to the point that we're achieving those big goals we have, and creative adaptability using all of our different skills, whether it's cognitive, behavioral, emotional, and leaning into that to take us to the next level in our business or life transformation that we might be going through. And I've had to adapt so many different ways, and I didn't realize I was using a lot of these skills, but I read a ton and I started really studying these different methodologies and realizing it's not like these are all different pieces. For me, it's all a piece of the same pie that we need as a toolkit to be able to be productive and to go through those big changes in life.
Awesome. Awesome. We're going to get some more of that and dive deeper into what do you do, how you serve, and how people can get a hold of you. But right now, I do want to pivot to your introduction to the fabulous Miss Desiree Cruz. Tell us how that happened and what really caused the synergies for you to say yes to this project.
Desiree was here in Chicago at an event, the Accelerator Business Summit, and it was a local event, and I knew quite a few of the people there. So I was excited to, maybe make a few new connections and just collaborate again with people that I knew. And it was the very first day of the conference, and I'm sitting there trying to find coffee. I'm like, man, I'm gonna get some coffee to get this energy going. And this beautiful woman comes over and she's like, hun, the coffee is there and my room is over there. I'm about to speak. So if you guys can all just get some coffee and come over here, that'll be great. And I was like, I like her. We're going to help her out. So in the lobby, I'm kind of gathering some people up that I knew. And I said, hey, let's go over here and we'll, support this lovely lady. And so we went into her room. And the first thing she was like, hey, is anybody a speaker in here? Can someone do my reel and take some photos? So I grabbed her phone and I was helping her out behind the scenes. And so just right away, before we really even got to know each other, there was just this immediate bond. And I knew that there was opportunities for us to find other ways to work together. So I loved, collaborating with Desiree and now doing the Warrior Women book. And I just see sky's the limit of more opportunities for us to support women as they're growing their business and changing their lives.
Absolutely. I love that story. I heard a bit of it when we were in our keynote meeting, and it just gives me chills again because it's as simple as just saying hello, just, connecting with someone, getting out of that comfort zone and initiating some type of conversation, whatever it is. And I just loved also her boldness of, what she was looking for, what she needed. And she, having you placed right there, it's definitely divine. I believe was definitely something that needed to happen. I'm truly a believer that God puts people in the right places at the right time. So when you were introduced to this book, obviously you submitted a chapter. What was your inspiration? Without giving everything away, just tell us a little sneak peek of kind of what you share in this Warrior Women anthology, and what is the legacy you want to leave behind for the readers?
I was in the middle of writing the next Chameleon Mindset book, so I had a lot of ideas that I'm working on to put stuff together. But those books are really focused on, what my coaching material is and the business lessons I'm trying to teach to people. And I have this very important story, a big milestone in my life, and I was like, oh man, I want to tell this story, but it doesn't quite fit in the bigger book. And so once I understood more about like leaving a legacy and the pieces of Warrior Women that Desiree's trying to put together, I said, you know what, this piece needs to go in there. And not to spoil the whole chapter, but it is talking about women's health and how the healthcare system treats us. And in light of many other events going on here in the US around that situation, I said, this is the time to tell that story. And if I can tell it standalone, it can actually have more power in this anthology with many of the other women in there telling stories of different experiences in the health environment, whether they're doctors or nurses or maybe just for themselves. So I thought it was the perfect way to tell that story and to start to advocate more for women's health and better coverage with insurance and things like that.
What just working in the healthcare industry for 14 years, that's actually who I divorced before starting what I do today. And just knowing the lack of just information, education, rights and responsibilities in the healthcare industry, where people are just not, getting their checkups and not really following through. So I can't wait. I actually just got chills when you told me kind of what it was about. And I don't know, I haven't read it, so I can't wait to get the book in my hands and be able to follow up with you and say, hey, oh my goodness. So thank you so much for that. I'm glad that you are part of this series and you're at the table that Desiree has built for not just you, but every author and those that are past, present, and future. So I'm looking forward to have many celebrations in that realm and also get to know you and what you do more. But, we're going to transition into actually sharing what Warrior Women BALM Global has put together since our release of everything that we're doing and how we merge together and really share a highlight of our first annual Warrior Women BALM Global, which we will have it. We will be having our next one, which Nikki Green will be a keynote speaker, and I'm super excited to have her on that roster. But let's go back and take a peek at what last year looked like.
She is a warrior, ain't nothing gonna slow her down. She is a warrior, yeah. She is a warrior, ain't nothing gonna slow her down. She is a warrior, she's taking this battleground. She is a fighter, a crier, she ain't gonna lose this round. She is a warrior, yeah. She sees a way, and it ain't paid. Rubies of gold. She's gonna train her mind, gotta keep her in line, keep her eyes on the Lord. She's ready to battle, won't take that enemy down. She fears the evil, holding her ground. She is a warrior, ain't nothing gonna slow her down. She is a warrior, she's taking this battleground. She is a fighter, a crier, she ain't gonna lose this round. She is a warrior.
Welcome back. We are here with Nikki Green, and we just seen a highlight reel from our last Warrior Women BALM Global Conference, but we are having number 2 this August 9th in Canandaigua, New York. Nikki, you don't know how long it took me to even pronounce that. Let me tell you, I am so proud of myself. But Nikki will be in there. Just share the introduction again to this space and this opportunity and what really drew you in to saying, you know what, I need to speak there. I need to get my message out.
Yeah, for me, the more I can connect with people IRL, man, we spend so much time in this digital space. And I've just really begun to realize how important these types of retreats are for making that deeper connection, for really getting on the road to transformation. For the last few years, we've all been trying to do these transformations digitally, and it just doesn't have the same momentum sometimes. And so, how we can really get together and spend more time, more than just a few minutes on a podcast, to get that deeper level of understanding of each other so we really know how to support each other when that person is flashing their chameleon colors to ask for help.
Love it, love it, love it. So let's talk about you a bit more and just what is it that really just wakes you up every day to do what it is that you do?
I love hearing all the creative ways that people are building businesses these days. What I do a lot of times is help people start those important foundations. And yes, much of that is mindset, but a lot of it is also business. And I had the pleasure of working throughout Silicon Valley, helping big startups get even bigger. And I thought, man, can't we just adapt a lot of this to our businesses? And so getting to hear what these creative ideas are and formulate them into a profitable business plan for them so that they can create not just a business for themselves, but a legacy for their future. It's really exciting. And I just love this transition of how do we empower more people to start their own business and build that legacy rather than being stuck in that rat race of paychecks and, dependent on an employer to make their livelihood.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally important to really take your life into your own hands. I am all for corporate America, getting the experience, getting the knowledge, just learning the etiquettes of just being in meetings or, common communication or all those things. But I truly believe in taking all those experience, taking all those skills, and then creating your path, right? Creating your own path. A lot of people tend to discredit the lifelong journey they've been on to create a sustainable business. What are some tips would you like to give those that are probably thinking, I'm just going to be here forever. I really want to go and do that, but I just don't know how to do it. What advice do you have for our listeners that are right there in that moment?
One of the things I like to, when I interview people for my podcast, Stand Up and Stand Out, is really talk about this non-linear path of life. We kind of get taught that it is like, oh, you step one, go to school, step two, go to job continues to next job, right? And it's all this. And it doesn't really work that way. That's not how we're built as people. As we grow, as we develop, we're going to find new interests and we're going to pivot in those directions and build new skills. What most people do though, when they go and make these transitions is like they pretend like that other stuff didn't happen and like it doesn't matter. It's like, no, I'm going in this direction totally. And that's not really genuine either. We need all of those past skills. Like you said, whatever jobs they might have been, from me working at the ice cream parlor when I was a teenager, all of it builds upon itself as to who we are and the decisions we make and the things we need to be successful now. So I say just bring it all in, the good, the bad, the whatever, and let's find that next path, because those are the things that are going to give you strength. There was a time before when you probably struggled. You're going to struggle again. How do we get through it? By remembering, oh, well, that wasn't so bad and I came out the other side. I can do that this time too.
Absolutely. Great, great, great points. And I just, I've been through that. I know that feeling where it's like, I can't figure this out. What am I going to do? And I just know that I have to take action. Just one, make a decision, because we can make a decision, but if we don't put action behind it, it kind of goes nowhere, right? I do want to know, how do you maintain a positive resilience in your mindset, especially when you go through challenges? What are some of the challenges that people may face when they're finally making this decision?
Starting a business is one of the hardest things you can do. Most of us haven't had that background. We don't have that experience of how we were taught. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and you have to do a lot of things that maybe you don't love, you're not an expert in. And so it's, how do you keep chunking those things away? How do you do those things at least a few times before you decide, oh, I need to spend money and hire people? How do you make a longer term plan than just, okay, am I going to make rent this month? it's really building all those skills together and having a community around you, because you are going to fall, you're going to falter. You have to be ready for that. Who's going to be around you to support you when you need that step back up? And so it's keeping those pieces in place. Don't just do what we've always done, which is I'm just going to work harder. If I just work 150% more hours, less sleep, it's all going to work out. And sometimes we just don't have the skills yet to be successful. And so that's when we can start to find that resilience, is every time we get better, every time we learn, every time we grow, then it gets a little bit easier the next time you come into a new challenge.
For sure, for sure. And I actually had a question to the last question, to your last response, as far as the skills that we kind of leave behind. We think we don't need them anymore. And I know Desiree, my beautiful Desiree, calls me the document queen, right? Because I need things in black and white. And that's just, again, from being in corporate and having to have everything in black and white, step by step. What do you need to do so that there's no gray area in between, which there's always going to be a gray area anyway. Nothing is set in stone. But just going back, that what I do today and how I stay organized, because people ask me all the time, Nikki, I don't know how you do it, right? But it's that skill. It was that first going to Job Corps and getting into the business technology, being Microsoft certified. So now I have my tools. I have my tools for a lifetime. I've been using them for 20 plus years. And that is how I communicate. That is how I keep everything organized. And now Desiree calls me the document queen. So best believe you'll have a PDF, a spreadsheet, you'll have something. But it was those skills that now when I open my business, now I can stay organized. I can have them. If I would have just said, hey, you know what, I'm going to do Keeps, I'm going to do Trello, I'm going to do all these other apps that I'm not 100% familiar with, and not that I will not get familiar with it. But if I know my genius and I know that that's how I can stay organized, why am I going to let those skills go? So I just wanted to pinpoint that. And you talked a lot about coaching and things like that. How important was it for you to receive, or for you to invest in yourself and in a coach to build what you've built today? And how many coaches have you had?
I've had a lot. As I hit certain walls, as I hit certain levels of income, you realize that you need something different. I'm very fortunate that I have an MBA in international business, and I've done business for 25 years before I started this. I've opened smaller businesses, in the marathon business and stuff. So I learned some of these lessons early on, and now getting into the coaching business, like, okay, well, what does this even look like? How do I get best practices? So it was great that I had sort of a life coach and a business coach in the same ways, because I'm studying the business of what they're doing while they're also teaching me how to work through these transformations. And so right in the middle of the pandemic, I got a career coach. And originally I was just trying to change careers. I was like, this isn't working. What am I going to do next? And he was like, I don't know why you want to go back there. Like, you are not meant to be there. This is not the right thing for you. You need to really reinvent yourself and think about what you're going to do next. And so I started journaling, and those journals actually became my first book. And I gradually built out the speaking business and the writing and all the other things after that. But it wasn't until he told me that bold statement that I was like, oh. And the funny thing is, like, when I quit my job and I told people what I was doing, nobody was like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? They were like, yeah, that sounds right. It's like, that's what you should have been doing all along.
I love that. Well, a lot of us are not fortunate enough to really see that, right? Some people are really surprised when our everyday person that has been conditioned to believe that, what society's standards that were put on us is our life. It's our, it is our end all and be all. But in true reality, it isn't. So when we talk about that, like, what advice would you give someone that has been conditioned to believe that, employment's the only way, climbing up the corporate ladder? And what are they? I'll let you answer that, and I'll ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, I'm sure you have plenty of thoughts from your experience as well. But it is hard. You spend your whole life with the I should be doing all these things. And you don't realize the weight that it puts on you when you're not really genuinely being able to pursue what you want. I was fortunate that in my career, I took a hold of it. every 12 to 18 months, I had a new job or different responsibilities, or I was traveling the world. I really pushed myself into these things because I like that uncomfortable space of new. Not everybody is like that. And so for me to leave and start a business, it wasn't really that big of a leap because I had a lot of foundational pieces. So don't quit your job without the foundations in place. It takes a while to build a lot of these things and to learn. So make a commitment just like you would if you were going to go to university and get an MBA. Get your entrepreneurial MBA. Take a few classes, do a stuff digitally, get a few things in place, get a plan in place for having saved money that you can. I knew I had at least a year's worth of income before I left. I didn't just take off. And too many people take off too soon and then they put pressure on themselves like, oh, it's just not working. I'm going to go back to my job. So it's got to put those pillars in place and balance that. It's not just overnight you become this new thing. It is going to take time to build. You have to have a plan, you have to have patience, and you have to have financial security to make sure that you can stick with it.
Yes. Oh my goodness, Nikki, I did it all wrong.
Sometimes you're just over it. You're like, bye.
Sometimes, yes, absolutely. After 14 years, and mind you, I love what I did. Who I worked for had a management team that was amazing, a team that was just so supportive. But I just knew I was not being fulfilled, and I left, just for my notary business. And I went on to do that for 2 years. It helped me very well. I was on revenge travel. And, I literally went on a leap of faith with no plan B. I just know if I had an idea and I made a decision and I took action, results were coming. That was really my formula. And I'm thinking about it out loud right now, and I've said it so many times, but it's really hitting home for me. But I do not recommend, either or. God's going to lead you the way that he needs to lead you for this, right? But yeah, I kind of slid into the coaching because people wanted to know, how do you become a notary? And then I was like, well, if I'm going to teach them how to be notary, let me teach them how to build the business as a notary. And then that's when everything else came into place, and just, building it out within 48 hours and then, seeing the data, right? What do you think about someone taking a leap of faith, taking action, going, for their dreams, and realizing that they needed that analysis to even make a decision if they should continue or if they should go back to work?
Yeah, some people, and it depends on your situation too. Like if it's mainly you, maybe you're not providing for other people, or maybe you are. Something about that will also give you the fear that you've got to do things differently. Some people really need that extra kick of like, there is no safety net. You have to make this work. You have to figure it out. And so for those people, sometimes the leap of faith works out perfectly. There's a lot of times I just jump, but I'm jumping with already so much experience behind me. Just like you said, it's like you weren't just going to teach them how to be a notary. You taught them how to have a business as a notary. So you were already up-leveling them based on your experience. And this is where all those things come together. If you don't have some of those building blocks, that fall may be long and it may be hard before you figure out that uptick. And maybe it'll be real fast. Maybe you're a quick learner. Maybe you have the right people around you in your community. So there is no one size fits all for people. That's what I say. I just say, like, the more you can hedge your bets to make sure you get what you want out of it, that's really where I try to help people that, hey, we're going to have to take a risk one way or another. Where do you feel comfortable with that risk and where do you not?
Yes, I think that is a perfect segue to what is part of your program, like what offers you have available, how can people get a hold of you, and what is your mission for the rest of 2025 with what you're doing?
I'm excited to really start expanding into a paid community. One thing that I realized as I was sort of relating my business coaching to my wellness coaching was that you don't go into a gym and then they go, okay, tomorrow you're running a marathon or you're going to go lift 300 pounds or, whatever all these like way big metrics are. They assess your fitness and then they make a plan towards your goals. And I thought it was kind of funny that when I was going into other coaching programs or talking to other coaches, they were trying to make these one size fits all business coaching things. And most people are not starting at the same place in their business with the same level of experience. And they're also not trying to get to the same finish line. We have all this clickbait of like 6-7 figure businesses. Oh my goodness. But it's like, hey, what about the first 4,000, like what about the first
Yes.
like 3 digits? And so I really started to refocus on how do I create a monthly membership where people can come in just like maybe a business gym, and we just build all of those muscles that you need to build good business foundations. And that way they can start at any place they are. We can focus on little bits and pieces of what they need for this month, next month, and continue adapting to get to those bigger term goals. And so it's been much more successful as we have now the paid membership, rather than trying to lock everyone into, 3 months, a year, whatever that might be. And they weren't starting with a good foundation. So they weren't always getting the results they needed by the end.
Yeah. So, what are some of the biggest objections you see when you're speaking with potential prospects, and why they don't move forward with really going for their dreams?
It's overwhelm. There's so much fear there, but it's just overwhelm of too many things that you can't figure out what you don't even know because you're not even in it. And it could be anything from the technology, it could be the financial aspect, it could be other administrative, legal stuff about the business. It could be providing for someone else and making sure not just that you're making money for the business, but for people that you're trying to protect at home. And so we really try to isolate those pieces and let's say, what can we do right now? What is our goal for the next 30 days? And not get overwhelmed with all the other things, because all those other things are also priorities for our business. But you can only do so many things in a day. And if you do too many, you're not going to do them well. And so I really love getting that refocus with people. So it kind of calms the fear down of it's okay to choose and it's okay to just go all in. And then you can get to figure out that bigger goal. Maybe you don't know it right now. Maybe you feel it, but you got to start taking some of those baby steps before you can like really have it materialize and then go, I'm all in. This is the end state. This is where I want to be. And that's okay. We don't have to figure it all out on day one when we're like, okay, here's my business and here it all is magically laid out in a business plan. Sometimes it evolves as you work on it. So I love that part of it.
I love that you differentiated the levels of where people are coming in at, and for them to feel comfortable that way, because, servicing a community of 50 plus women, some are just starting, some have no desire to have a business, some are very well established, and we want them all, right? Because everybody can feed off of everybody, and we're learning and we're growing and we're creating the sisterhood. But what do you suggest for those that may feel intimidated because they haven't progressed, for various reasons, right? It can be medical reasons, it can be, just a setback, it could be a mindset. What type of advice would you give those that are kind of in any community, whether ours or, because there's plenty of communities around the world, and they're kind of thinking, should I just back up and give up? What is the advice you would get in that for that person?
Yeah, I think especially with women, we spend a lot of time caregiving for so many people around us. We always have people kind of needing us in lots of different ways. And a lot of us get worried about having the same thing with our business, that our business needs us more than we need it. And it becomes another thing taking our energy. And so we have to balance that. We have to find a way that doing that business gives us energy. And if it's not giving us energy, then maybe we need to step back and reevaluate. And sometimes just go in for the community aspect. Not everything is going to be like, oh, overnight success. Sometimes it takes time. So, what is it that you need? Maybe you don't need anything about your business right now. Maybe you're taking a pause. Maybe you just need some support because your kid's sick, you're sick, parents sick, all these other people that we're trying to provide for. So don't give up on the community aspect because everyone is going through life too. They're not just caring about their business, they are caring about all those other things. And so you never know, just like we started our conversation today, how many parallels you might have behind the scenes when you are a little bit vulnerable and start to, again, like flash those colors and say, hey, I'd love to be doing this. It's just not working out because this other thing is keeping me down. How can I get help for this other thing? When maybe that's not the point of the community, but we're all human beings, right? We're all here to help each other.
Absolutely. And I'll ask for another question. What are your thoughts on those that are maybe afraid to ask for help?
I see it a lot. I see so many of us were taught to just push it all down, to just figure it out. And I've done that many times throughout my career. You're just sort of supposed to mask your feelings. But at the end of the day, if you're really around others, we know. And sometimes it's that other person that's going to need to reach out and say, "Hey, you seem a little off. I'm not sure. Maybe you do know, maybe you have some behind the scenes. Just like, how can I help?" And so I think it's those other folks around that can help when maybe people aren't quite ready to talk about it. And they're probably not going to talk about it in a big group. They probably don't want to post it in a chat. They probably need a more one-on-one time. And a lot of times I have other sessions. I have happy hours. I have just things where people can come and just vent about what's going on in life. And it doesn't have to be this like serious business meeting where we talk about all these objectives and goals. That stuff can wait. We need to make sure we're always having those things as like probably something good happened, but there's so many other things that we might be challenged with. We're forgetting those little wins. So try to get people to refocus, get people to reach out. I just love not just talking about our business, but how can we talk about our lives holistically and making sure we're supporting every aspect.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And how can people get a hold of you, Nikki Green?
Oh, of course, at the nikkigreen360.com. You can follow me on social, listen to my podcast, or grab one of these amazing books like Warrior Women 3.
Yep. We also have that on the screen, and that is at beyondcollege.thriveheart.com/warrior-women-3-sign-paperback. So she is going to give you a signed copy of her edition of the Warrior Women 3 series. First of all, my favorite color is blue. You have teal in the background. I have teal just for you. Did not know. Things happen very organically and very purposeful. So I just want to thank you, Nikki. I'm going to give you the floor. What are you working on right now? What do you want the audience to know about you and your services? And what do you want to leave them with?
I would love to have more people in our Business Foundations membership. The more we can come together, the more we can help each other, and all ships rise. I really love that about having a membership. And what we're also looking to do is more in-person retreats. So it's not just that, weekly or monthly virtual support that we're giving each other, but how do we come together, take that real pause and do that deeper work we need to do, whether that is coming together to run a 5K or whether that is earning another 5K in our business. We have these great retreats that we're planning all around the US, hopefully international next year, to really get into that deeper level. So if you guys are interested in doing that for your business and for yourself, definitely catch me at the nikkigreen360.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nikki. It's been a pleasure getting to know you more, getting to realize that we have more in common than we knew. And I can't wait to see you just in a couple months. Congratulations on everything you're doing and all of your speakers and traveling and just impacting the world. That's what it's about. It's taking our stories, our impact, and just making it become a domino effect and contagious so that the world starts growing and leveling up as well. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. And as I always say, make it count. Bye, everyone.